Good morning, everybody. Morning, all. Thank you very much for coming along today, for those of you in person and those of you that have signed in online. My name is Mark McGowan. I'm the Global Managing Director of Maritime here at ABL, and welcome to the July 2025 market briefing. Our briefing this morning is accredited by the Chartered Insurance Institute, and delegates can claim up to 1 CPD hour for your participation. We will therefore keep a record of those of you in the room and those of you logging on online. If you haven't done so already, please sign in with the team outside on the desk after the briefing so you can receive the follow-up email and any CPD certification that you require. Just as a reminder, we will be ending our webinar portion of the briefing today after the technical presentation, and the marine casualty reports moving forward will only be presented in person. Of course, we were happy to discuss with any of you who can't make it in person the information on them post-briefing. If you want to get hold of us later on, please do so. I'm delighted to announce our technical presenter today. Christoph is a marine consultant at ABL Germany and a master mariner with over 13 years of experience in the maritime industry. He has worked across oil and gas and offshore wind, supporting construction and O&M phases and operating on DP2 vessels, jack-ups and heavy lift ships. Christoph brings strong technical insight and hands-on experience in offshore operations with deep understanding of dynamic positioning, vessel systems and navigational procedures. He's well placed to deliver today's presentation on navigational risk exposure in wind farm operations. And delivering the case reports, we have Joe Mullen joining us again. Joe is a naval architect on the ABL Group Engineering Development Programme and is currently working for ABL here in London. So we're very pleased to welcome him back. As a reminder, Chatham House rules apply, and any of the opinions expressed in the presentation today are those of the presenters and not necessarily those of ABL. And another reminder, please, if you could give us your feedback, this helps us a lot to keep our CPD accreditation, and of course ensures that we can keep our topics to ones that you find interesting. And don't worry if you miss it, we'll also send a follow-up email, and there's a QR code outside as well. I'm now going to hand over to Christoph for the technical part of the presentation.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Christoph Grams, and I'm working in the Hamburg office as a marine consultant. And I'm talking today about navigational risk exposure in offshore wind operation, collision hazards, and DP challenges. Yeah, I'm master mariner as background, senior dynamic positioning officer, and worked over 6 years on walk-to-work vessels, did more than 10,000 connections and transferred more than 35,000 personnel safely. I will not say incident-free, but safely. And then I worked another 2 years on wind turbine installation vessels, installing TPs, monopiles, and nacelles towers. Decommissioning, I did not have much experience, not yet. So today's learning objectives are to understand the varying traffic situation across the different life cycles, phases in an offshore wind farm. Secondly, compare the collision risk levels between CTVs, so-called crew transfer vessels, and service operation vessels or construction service operation vessels, CSOVs or SOVs. Identify the most common root causes of collision in offshore renewable energy environment, and explore the future development aimed at reducing collisions and illusion in offshore wind operations. I have it structured in 6 main topics to give you an overview about the current traffic situations in, within operation and passing traffic in offshore wind, the operational traffic profile, what we have currently now and we will expect in 2050, the common results of collision in offshore wind farms, SOV and CTV cargo risk environment, cargo meaning cargo transport risk environment, and lessons from incident and near misses, and mitigation strategies and future recommendations. If there are any questions, in between, or I might not be clear on something, please raise your hand and I will try to respond. So I would like to give you an overview about the general traffic, what we can expect in an operation of a wind farm. You have the operational traffic, what is mainly only for serving a wind farm or in an operation to make O&M or installation. And then we have the commercial passing traffic. So I would like to give you now an overview about the vessel traffic by lifespan of a wind farm or in development. We have the heaviest traffic in a wind farm during the operation and maintenance campaigns. We have around what are generally taking place in the summer period where the weather is good, everything from April until September. There we have around 40 connections every day. And the general O&M campaigns depends every time also on the size of a wind farm. I mean, this is just rough figures. I mean, if you have a small wind farm with 10 turbines, of course, you will not have 40 connections. But what a standard wind farm with 100 turbines or 150, then you have this amount. You have around 15 to 18 connections for O&M. The standard O&M was going throughout all the year. And then you have a lot of connections for tower and cable installation where you come to the high or to the end phase of a construction of a wind farm. There's a lot of activity ongoing, cable laying, tower installation, nacelle installation, final commissioning. There's a lot of traffic in the wind farm. A low traffic profile, you have YTP and monopile installations. And on survey, if you do OXO surveys before you do any wind farm installation, there you have also no risk of collision. So then you have the commercial traffic density, what is passing through a wind farm. This is generally depending on the location where the wind farm is. Wait, I need to get the pointer here. So we are structured. I took just the basis from the North Sea, and you have the main traffic routes: northeast, southwest, and Germany, UK, and Denmark, UK. And there you have the corridors where the traffic is quite directed, and you have depends on the year and the traffic amount is just directed, and there is not much risk of collisions. We are doing also the navigation risk assessments for the individual fields for the German government. And just to give you some values that are between the collision risks for cargo vessels onto a turbine is between 80 and 140 years, one event per wind farm. So it's quite long. Depends every time where the location is. So I would like to give you an operational traffic profile, what we have currently and we will expect in 2050. At the moment, we have worldwide, or it was in 2024, 83 gigawatts installed, and the average turbine size is 9.7 megawatt. The estimated number of turbines with this is 8,550 piles, and to serve a turbine, there are 16 visits necessary a year per turbine. So that gives you, and for the installation phase, we need to have around 10 visits for all the cycles until this one is up and running. The forecast, we will have a development in 2030 up to 234 gigawatts. So that is an increasing of 300% in the next 6 years. In 2040, we will have worldwide installed 450 gigawatts, And in 2050, we will have installed 1,150. That are just the estimations, and depends every time on the political willingness and, of course, on the end of the day, the cost of the energy is the driving factor. Just to give you a compare value, a nuclear power plant has between 1.5 and 2 megawatt in power. So that is around 500 nuclear power plants you build offshore. That is worldwide in up to 2050, what is quite an amount. So the key takeaways, currently we will have, or we have with 83 gigawatts installed, around 140,000 connections with SOVs and CTVs to serve the turbines. And we will have in 2050 up to 2 million. That is increasing of 1,300%. Quite a number. And with this, of course, the risk of collisions are rising. This is one typical example of a typical allision to a SOV. We need to divide between the allision and the collision. From SOV, you are mainly getting allisions on a low speed profile. They're just hitting or touching a turbine. I mean, the result is quite severe, but there still can everything be repaired. And with CTVs, it's different. There you have more collisions, but we'll talk about this later. This one was a service operation vessel Wind of Hope, who stuck in a turbine in Hornsea 1 on 19th of September 2024 at around 1838 local time. At the time of the impact, the vessel carried 26 crew members and 46 technicians. Fortunately, there were no injuries or water ingress or pollution reported. This is another example. This is from a CTV. This is a Njord Fossetti 26-meter CTV flying the British flag and collided with the tower in Borkum Riffgrund 1 offshore wind farm on 23rd of April 2020 at 1825 local time. At the time, the vessel was transiting at approximately 20 knots post-operation with calm sea conditions, but failed to maintain a proper lookout. The damage and the casualties, a half-meter long crack occurred on the bow, leading to water ingress. The crew controlled the flooding using onboard pumps. 3 crew members were injured, including 1 seriously and evacuated by helicopter. As you can see, the traffic, if a CTV has a collision, generally with high speed and associated with injuries. Of course, there are cases where are no injuries reported, but generally, if you have with 20 knots and hitting a standing pile, yeah, it's the same with a car, will not go out on. Yes. They're welded steel construction, yes. No, you have the monopile, then the CP comes on top, like a cone, and then the tower and the nacelle comes.
So the tower is lit, but the lower is lit.
No, the tower is above, and then you have the TP. This is the transition piece. One moment. This one is a transition piece, and on top over there, there's coming the tower.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think the question is whether it's lit, how visible it is.
It is lit. During operation, they are lit. They have working lit, and outside of the wind farm, you have even navigational warning light or obstruction light. Getting back to the next one. That is a result of a cargo incident. A cargo vessel, the Petra L, collided with a wind turbine in Gode Wind 1 wind farm located in the North German Wadden Sea, late April 2024. The Petra L was trading from Stettin, Poland to Antwerp, Belgium, and with about 1,500 tons of grain on board, traveling on autopilot with 9 knots and strayed several miles off course. The vessel suffered a substantial hole in about 5 to 3 meters on a starboard bow, leading to water ingress. Fortunately, there were no injuries reported. Investigation and root cause. The water police and wind farm operator investigation revealed that the autopilot-related deviation and a lack of situational awareness as a key factor. The incident highlighted the inadequate watchkeeping and insufficient monitoring of the 500-meter safety zone. So she was quite lucky that she hit that one, getting off course really for a long time. Probably he might have been falling asleep. Yeah, what are the extreme potentials? What can happen? I mean, this is made up by ChatGPT, as you can imagine. Never ever. But if a 400-meter container vessel hits a export substation, we are talking about a loss of the big bridge in US. I think you can compare this. And the risk of this is increasing with more wind farms. Yeah, where I took my base from, I only took the public reported cases, what you could find online. A lot of these cases and allision and collisions are not being publicly reported. Of course, you have the IMCA, what is recording all the incidents, and but they're looking to the general industry, but not focusing on offshore wind. So we had 12 incidents reported in the last 8 years, what are collision and allision. And you can see we have 2 cargo vessels, 4 SOVs and 4 CTVs. And the main area is coming from the operation of the wind farm, the main collisions and allisions. We had total, the already mentioned 12 public collisions, and 10 of them, they are offshore traffic, and only 2 of them are cargo traffic related. Now we are getting to the nature of the incidents based on these 12 cases, on these 8,550 connections, turbines, with 137,000 transfers a year. We had around 1.5 collisions every year. And the main contributing factor or nature of the incident is the human factor in these incidents within the operation of a wind farm. Leading by the CTVs, followed by the SOVs, and the cargo vessels have the minor percentage. And the other vessels were also from the operation of the wind farm. Any questions? The lessons from the incidents and near misses. The most contributing factors in offshore wind are misjudgment of the environmental conditions and the strengths of the environmental conditions. If you are going with an SOV, you'll be strongly advised to work any time off drift. Off drift meaning wind is coming from here, current is coming from here, and in case if something is happening, you just drift off and nothing is happening. You just lose the connection with the gangway, but that's it. If you work on drift, sometimes in some cases, of course, it's necessary or not avoidable, but as a rule of thumb, you should not work on drift. wrong working heading and wrong working heading selection and speed adjustment, too quick approaches, not reducing the speed early enough, and working above operational limits. It's a key factor of collision as well. And not using of the local reference systems, what are phased into DP2 vessels, and distraction from the DPO by phone calls and other ship-related duties. Unexperienced crew left unsupervised and continued operation with technical defects, and they were wrongly evaluated. Now I would come to the next topic, what is the alpha factor, but I would like to give you also a personal experience, what I have experienced in the wind farm. I was connected in the winter time. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. It was dark. It was rainy. We were working off drift on limiting conditions with 2.2 meter, a bit from the side. You can see here. And I was connected for 20 minutes and everything was stable. And I thought myself, she's behaving very well. And the technicians had delay and I was already, why did it take so long? And the technicians were coming up, and from one moment to another moment, the vessel was completely set off by 6 meters without any notification. And in this case, if you would have worked on drift, everything would have been smashed. Yeah. We were luckily, or not luckily, we had a permanent weather monitoring, and the weather buoy was showing me constant 2.2 meter and the limit was 2.5. So, as you say, I was working within the limits. And in that moment, I was looking on the weather buoy and it showed from one moment to another one, 3.2. And took the vessel, that was one big wave, and just took the vessel aside. You can't do anything. DP will not react that quick. So that's why a very important topic is the negligence of the alpha factor within offshore wind. The DNV STN 001 is a standard issued by DNV, provides a technical requirements and guidelines for the planning and execution of marine operation, including transport, installation, and removal of offshore structures. It's widely used for offshore wind, oil and gas, and subsea industries to ensure safety, reliability, and compliance during complex marine operations. The alpha factor is the maximum ratio of operational criteria, design, environmental condition to allow weather forecasting inaccuracies as defined by DNV STN 001. The alpha factor should be applied to all allowable environmental parameters such as HS, what is significant wave height, wind speed, and current, depending on the governing environmental conditions. The gangway-specific rules are also found in DNV ST 0358, but these are seamlessly integrated into STN 001 alpha factor-based planning. Thus, any walk-to-work operation relying on weather forecast will correctly apply an alpha factor. Has to. And this is generally not done on board. Getting to the calculation of an alpha factor. The alpha factor, if you have a vessel what is limited with their gangway to 2.5 meter significant wave height to operate, and you are working in a wind farm, you have a permanent monitoring from a weather buoy, you can reduce the alpha factor to 0.96. That means if you have an operational limit to 2.5, multiply this by 0.96, you are allowed to work up to 2.4 meter in the forecast. Even your operational limit is 2.5. And on some cases, that is even less. If you have no monitoring, no constant monitoring in place in the wind farm within the next 3 nautical miles, you need to apply a different safety factor, what is in this case calculated to 0.81, and then you only allowed to work up to 2 meter significant. Every forecast above 2 meter, you will not start operation. And this is generally not followed by the walk-to-work industry. Any questions? Common causes of general DP incidents. That is in walk-to-work and CTV environment, the common causes are different. We have 10% environmental, and thruster and propulsion failures are 23%. Human factor is 19%. So 1/5 is contributing in general DP operation to the incidents as the human factor. Power supply loss is 14%, and control system 15%. Position reference system is also 19% of the contributing factors in DP incidents. Now I would like to come to the recommendations. Walk-to-work operation in an offshore wind farm, they are different to other DP operations, cable laying or supply vessel. There's just one rig around, what you, of course, you can hit, and you are not in that time pressure. If you imagine as an operator from a SOV, you need to deliver between 5 and 8 or 10 teams every morning. This is like a bus stop. You go from one turbine to another turbine to another turbine. The people needs to start to work, and you have for everything 20 minutes. The recommendations would be to provide a specialized DPO training focusing on wind operation gangways, focuses between transit, approach, transfer, and departure. Sufficient operational manning on CTVs and SOVs. CTVs are sometimes even on the bridge singly-handed, and if they're getting a call or an engine alarm, they can't quickly respond and still continue steaming with 20 knots. So there should be an operational manning, not a minimum safe manning. And also on the SOVs, in some operators are not the second DPO is driving the gangway. That should not be the case. The second DPO should be the backup for the DPO and be the eyes and ears outside and help him if needed. Number 5, the time pressure from the charterers in operation and allowance for enough time from connections to connections, weather depending, and strictly operating within operational conditions as per alpha factor and SDN 001 and DP2 capabilities. Avoiding on-drift operations wherever possible, and avoiding of distracting during transfers or during transfers by mobile phones, calls. Potential future tools, what can help the operators. The second DPO, we are an AI introduced planning and weather transfer planning tools will help the planning team on board from the wind farm operator or service operator to integrate the transfers in their weather planning and their contingency. An AI introduced tracking of operation and to reduce the workload of the administrative tasks on the bridge. Everything has to be reported. Once I start the connection, once I end the connection, how many passengers went over, this needs to be reported to MCC, to the Marine Coordination Center, and everything is happening on the bridge. This can be reduced in the future. Collision avoidance algorithm models can help the operator to put out a warning that you are facing a collision. Neuroadaptive interfaces, something like if you are in the car and you're on the road, you will not, and sometimes the car starts to beep because you are not following the road correctly. Something like this to also determine the stress level of the DPO and give them a heads up. Development of drift prediction models and improvement operator interfaces with mode change, alert, and dynamic limits. And of course, drone operations in the future will reduce the exposure time to personnel and equipment. Yes, what we can expect. The future projections and expectation collision assumptions, the same collision rate continues as a number per year without any change now in the industry. At the moment, we have around 140,000 transfers and roughly 2 collisions every year. In 2030, we will have 400,000 transfers and 5.7 collision and illusion every year. In 2040, we will have 700,000 transfers and 10 collisions every year. And in 2050, we will have 1.875 million transfers every year and expected 26.8 collisions. Without a significant improvement of the number of collisions will rise due to increasing of the offshore wind farm and installed number of turbines. These possesses a growing risk of the human safety, asset damage, and operational continuity. If we don't change the system, we will see with the development of all the offshore wind farms a massive increasing of the collisions. Any questions? Yes.
How is the vessel secured to pylon? How is the vessel secured to pylon so they can transfer?
Okay. This is been done by a motion compensated gangway system. Walk to work, it's called.
It's a gangway
It can exactly
Right.
in a height about 15 meters. Yeah, the vessel itself is maintaining its position on dynamic positioning system. So computer controlled thruster system and operated by a navigator.
Can you comment on anything to do with wind farm itself creating a navigational asset through its operations? Where it interferes with radar or GPS or anything?
No, I would not have. It can happen that if you are working under a nacelle, that the GPS signal, if you have a bad angle and a bad heading, that the GPS signal is blocked for a moment. That's why it's important that you have every time a local reference system enabled in the DP. But this is the only thing what you can have, a kind of shadowing for the GPS if you are working close to a structure.
That graph includes all
Yes, this includes everything.
and also
Yeah. Commercial cargo vessels as well. So, and 10% of the collisions are coming from cargo vessels.
And
Yeah.
the right-hand axis, is that a number?
This is the number, on the left, we have the amount of transfers every year. And on the right, we have the amount of collisions. So that I could put it a bit together.
And what is the probability of the, maybe you actually work out the probability of the individual factors?
SOVs and CTVs are by 50% leveling, and then we have the other 10%, or from the total, it's 10% cargo vessel and 90% SOVs and CTVs, half. So 45% CTVs and 45% SOVs. Yeah, and wind turbine installation vessels, there were not anything recorded yet with a collision, or we didn't find it.
I think also taking into account the proximity to ports and identity. There's a lot of wind farms just outside of Rotterdam, some just to the south east seaport.
Yeah,
Where others are very isolated.
exactly.
Probably less. So
Of course, there every time on the, yeah, let's say on the local the location of the wind farm and the local traffic situation. But if we are close to a port, there's every time monitored by VTS and so on. If you are far offshore, they have only AIS monitoring, and to avoid another collision, it's also advisable that the wind park owners also put out radar surveillance, and also to detect possible threats coming from outside what are going in without any AIS. At the moment, they are blind generally.
Are these recommendations being considered and implemented or not?
Some operators are following this, yes. If we go more. Some operators are following this, and if we are part of the marine assurance team, we are giving the repetitive COA based on the STN 001 with the alpha factor. Yes.
And back to your graph, that is multiple conditions. One vessel gives you more than one.
No, this is just focusing now on the collisions onto the turbines or structures. Good. Anyone from online? No. Then, yeah, we're getting back to the learning objectives. Today, you should have understand the varying traffic situations across the different life cycle phases on offshore wind farm, compare the risk levels between CTV and SOV, and identify the most common root causes in offshore renewable energy environment, and explore the developments aimed at reducing collisions and illusion in offshore wind. I hope this was transferred. Yeah, the webinar is ending now, and Joe is continuing with the case reports. Thank you.